Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Barry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All-American Sports. Yeah, ain't nobody dope as me. Good morning, Baton Rouge. It's Saturday morning, and we're ready to locked and ready to rock on another edition of Louisiana All-American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. Good morning, everyone. I am Eric Hatfield.
And this is Piper, the man. Welcome, Baton Rouge. I'm here in the studio today, and I want to thank Eric Hatfield and Coach Barry Daniels for allowing me the chance to give my views on the sports that's around the local city of Baton Rouge.
And I'm Professor T. Johnson.
And we are ready to roll for another Saturday morning chock full of sports. Whole lot of action going on in the area last night. Last night, of course, Louisiana All-Americansports.com brought you a very exciting matchup, and you can see that on the replay on Louisiana All-Americansports.com between the Southern Lab Kittens. They played host to the visiting Donaldsonville Tigers at A.W. Mumford Stadium at Southern University. Final score was Southern Lab 28, Donaldsonville 26, and the game was as close as the score indicated. I was joined by Piper, and we had a coach, of course, Southern Lab coach Nick Mitchell on the show last week. We decided to carry his guys, and they're starting to look sharp going into district play. They took an early lead, had to hold on to the very end. Pretty exciting matchup, wouldn't you say, Piper?
Oh, yeah, it was a very exciting matchup. They came out, and the offense looked really good at first, and they jumped right on them, and I think they needed that win. They was real hungry because of what Donaldsonville did them last year, so they really needed that win. But at the end, they got kind of a little... I thought maybe some of the play calling wasn't as good. They instead of running the clock out, they elected to pass, and I think it came back to haunt them a little bit. But at the end, the defense, it was a bend, but it didn't break, and they capitalized on it.
Outstanding play in the secondary. We always like to give shout-outs to the local kids who stood out. Joseph McWilliams, who played on both sides of the ball, was outstanding last night, as was the running back Pat Green both for the Southern Lab Kittens. Also, the McKinley Panthers absolutely hammered Central last night at Central. That was a very big win for Coach Robert Signator. I thought the Panthers needed some confidence going into district play, and we expect to have Coach Sig on the line at some point this morning. By the way, if you want to get on the action, area code 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927. So speaking of high school football, we'll go ahead and turn the mic over to Professor Terrell Johnson to tell you what else went on in prep football in the area.
Good morning, Baton Rouge natives. Let me give you a brief rundown of Friday scores in the area. Meade blanked our Bel Air Bengals 41-0. Broadmoor upended Walker 48-46 in a close one. Brother Martin handed East Ascension a loss 35-26. Dutchtown opened a can of whoop-you-know-what on Captain Shreve. As Eric mentioned before, my alumni, the McKinley Senior High School, defeated Central 34-14 to spar their homecoming aspirations. Plaquemine defeated Jennings 49-47 in a close one. Port Allen defeated West Feliciana 30-14. As Eric mentioned, also Southern Lab beat Donaldsonville. The paper says 20-12. I think Eric mentioned another score.
Yeah, it was that game did not end until almost midnight. That was probably the latest score they had. It was 20-12 at one point, but again, the final was Southern Lab 28, Donaldsonville 26.
Okay, Tara got on the winning side with a win over Glen Oaks. I'm not sure what's transpiring with their Glen Oaks program this year, but they seem to be coming out on the short end of a lot of games. And also Zachary defeated and pummeled Scotlandville 41-7. And in the shocker, Woodlawn beat highly talented and ranked Warren Easton here in Baton Rouge 28-21. And I'm hearing great things about Warren Easton quarterback. He seems to be a prototypical Cam Newton-style quarterback. What do you think, Eric?
Well, you know, I've seen his name in the paper a few times. That's actually my younger brother's alma mater down in New Orleans, Warren Easton. And let me tell you, the football program's come a long way. They were not touted or ranked or rooted or anything like that back in the early 21st century, but they've come along. When you have a prize recruit like that, you can go a long way. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. I know it's like either a common first name or a common last name, but I've seen him on some of the highlights, and he is a physical specimen. He's going to make some college football coach very happy. His size and his strength are going to add a lot of weapons to somebody's offense at the next level. So that is, do we have any more high school scores?
That's it, Coach.
All right, so that's going to wrap up the high school scores that we have. We are standing by for Coach Robert Signator, head coach of the McKinley Panthers, and we will patch him in when he comes through or calls in. Would like to hear some commentary on that kind of a minor upset there at Central, really kind of spoiling their homecoming a little bit. And, you know, we've brought a lot of McKinley Panthers football on Louisiana All-American-Sports.com, and we've seen them battle against some tough teams. And this time they not only came out on top, but came out on top convincingly. They're playing really good football this year. Of course, they hammered Opelousas at their homecoming last week, which was brought to you on Louisiana All-American-Sports.com. So I am really, I like the direction that McKinley football program seems to be headed. So while we're waiting on Coach Signator, we're going to go from the boys to the men. We had our New Orleans Saints. They were 0-2 last week. They needed a win very badly, and they went into the Superdome and absolutely, well, you know, Minnesota did not have Adrian Peterson last week, and then on top of that, they lost their starting quarterback, Matt Castle, early in the game. So it was the stage was set up. It was a perfect storm for the Saints to get their first win of the season, and you know, the Saints came out on top. Bless you, boys, finally got that first win of the season, and oh, did they need it. It wasn't a perfect win. Maybe it wasn't even pretty at times, but the final score was 20-9, and they did not make a lot of mistakes or get pelted with a lot of penalties. So I think that worked out rather well for them. Wouldn't y'all say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that it really worked out actually really well for him. You know, to me, I think Teddy Bridgewater actually, you know, he showed a little something for Minnesota. Of course, he didn't have Adrian Peterson, but at the end of the day, it was a win is a win. But I'm still kind of concerned. We finally got one right. You know, we've been guessing the last couple of weeks, and the Saints finally make us look good by, you know, pulling that win off, you know, in the dome. But at the end of the day, I still think we need a little bit more tweaking, you know. I think we should have put up a little bit more points than that. I think that Minnesota was going through a lot of turmoil with the controversy that they've been having. I think that we should have capitalized a little bit more on it, but I'll take it.
As Eric said, I think that the Saints had a very lackluster performance. They lacked that precision-like offense that I'm accustomed to seeing. However, Minnesota is a mediocre team this year, especially with the omission of Adrian Peters. However, I'll take the win. I mean, I really anticipated a scoring frenzy there, a feeding frenzy there, but it didn't turn out that way.
You know what happened? The Saints defense, I thought we saw a little bit of an improvement. They bent, but they did not break. The Vikings never got into the end zone. And I don't care if you're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you keep an NFL team out of the end zone, that's something you can pat yourself on the back for. And I thought Bridgewater made some good throws, but you could see the lack of any kind of serious threat in the running game really enabled the Saints defense to do what it wanted, take some chances, throw out some blitzes when it wanted to, try to do some things to confuse the rookie. I thought Bridgewater held it together. Now, give him his credit for coming in unexpectedly in his first game. You know, he did a good job. But the Saints defense, I thought, looked a little bit better than they did the last couple of weeks. Offensively, they were kind of flat. But, you know, I mentioned on the show beforehand that all the Saints had to do was not make mistakes. They could play, I use the word conservative very loosely with a Sean Payton offense, but conservative by his standards, you don't have to put up 40 points, and that's what they did. The Saints never really, the closest it was 13-9 at one point, and then Captain Munderland decided to go WWE with the reverse suplex, and that was pretty much all the firing up that the Saints offense needed. They said, okay, time for you guys to go back to Minneapolis, and that's what happened. Still, there wasn't a lot, like you guys have suggested, there wasn't a lot to make me feel super confident and puff my chest out this week, but we'll see about a confidence booster. The Saints go on Sunday Night Football before the nation to Jerry World to play the Dallas Cowboys. The Saints have absolutely owned the Cowboys in Jerry World. They have not lost to Dallas in Dallas. This is from memory, but I believe it was, I want to say 1991 was the last time they lost in Dallas. Dallas has beaten New Orleans one time since from 1995 through last year. The Saints and Cowboys have played very regularly. Dallas has only won one game. That was that game in 2009. That snapped the Saints' 13-game winning streak. So the Cowboys escaped the hapless St. Louis Rams without a quarterback by the skin of their teeth. Now, granted, they were on the road. You always, even with a bad team, you have to give credit for a road win, but they fell way behind very early. St. Louis does have a very good defense. Props to Romo for rallying those troops back. But, you know, with Austin Davis at quarterback for the Rams, it's not like the Cowboys defense finally had to wake up and stop them at some point. Drew Brees is not strike that. Austin Davis is no Drew Brees. If the Cowboys play anything like that last week, this game could be over with at halftime. I think it could be whatever I don't know what the over-under is in this game, guys, but I'm taking the over.
Well, I'm going to take the over, too. I think that, actually, you know, the Cowboys are playing almost just like the Saints are playing. The defense are kind of not stepping up to the plate. And we're going to really see this weekend what the Saints are all about. We're going to find out a lot about Dallas, too. I think that the offense are going to do what they do, both of our defenses and our secondary, man. I just, you know, we're going to find out, you know, what's going on. We really need this win bad. To go 1-3 it would really put us in the hole. So this is going to be a tell. This is an important game, just like any given Sunday in the NFL. That's why I love it so much, because every week, every game means something.
Professor just came through with the ticket. First of all, the Saints are 4-point favorites on the road at Dallas. Home field in the NFL is home field in the NFL by the Vegas types, I've been told, is worth about 3 points. So they're basically saying this is almost an even game, slight edge to the Saints, or it would be on a neutral field. And the over is 54. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow. I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. I think it's going to be a shootout. I really do. You have a Cowboys offense. You know, DeMarco Murray, I believe, is leading the NFL in rushing yards.
He is.
So, you know, and here's the problem with the Cowboys all around. I think Tony Romo gets way too much criticism. I think that team, you know, they finished 500 the last couple of years. I think they'd be a 5-11 team were it not for Romo. The thing is that Romo is not Tom Brady. He's not Peyton Manning. So he will make those mistakes trying to gunsling late in the game. But the thing is, you look at some games that are close. You look at the Denver game last year, and people wanted to back him out of town. But they scored 40-some-odd points at home, and they wouldn't even have gotten that far if Romo hadn't made some plays. So that's just one example. But you have, you know, Dez Bryant, great receiver. They have nothing behind Dez Bryant, so they can double up on him. DeMarco Murray, great running back, but if they key up on him, they can't give him too many carries because they have nothing behind DeMarco Murray. The defense is atrocious. I think Dallas is going to make the Saints work because they have those weapons, but I think the Saints are just going to have more to keep piling on, and I think the Saints defense will eventually suffocate the big weapons Dallas has, force them to use their lesser players, and I think the Saints will have more points at the end, but that's just my humble opinion.
And I concur with you, and also, I think Dez Bryant is getting frustrated.
Yes.
With the Romo's inability to come through in the clutch. When it's crunch time and if the game is left in the hands of Romo and Romo has to make a decision, he usually falters. I mean, at the end of the game when it counts, he typically throws interceptions, and I just don't know what to say about Romo.
Well, it seems like it's another like T.O. situation. Dez Bryant seems like to have the same type of personality in a sense. Great talent, but sometimes get a little frustrated and does some immature things on the sideline.
Yes,
I also think that this year that they're kind of changing up a little bit where Romo doesn't throw as much. They see they have DeMarco Murray back there, so they're starting to try to give him the ball a little bit, which frees Tony Romo up for play action and being able to get more yards. Instead of just trying to gunsling it all the time, you know, keep it a little bit more close to the vest, because I think Garrett's job, I know he's on the hot seat for sure this year. People have been, you know, calling for his head actually the last couple of years. But this is going to be a telltale game and a very, very important game, I think, for the Saints more than it is for Dallas, because Dallas, I think, was on a 2-game win streak, and the Saints really needs this game, because we know the percentages of starting 0-2.
Yeah, start 0-2 or 1-3. It's not very good. You know, the Dallas Cowboys, you know, Jason Garrett, I think, should be on the hot seat this year. We know that Jerry Jones does not have a quick hook with coaches. He'll give them all the rope to hang themselves, but I think that noose is starting to tighten up around Jason Garrett's neck. And you mentioned the change of the game plan with Tony Romo. And they did it, but it was almost out of necessity after he had the surgery. I believe it was on his back,
right.
You know, that they finally changed it up. And I think they should. Tony Romo's 34 years old. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He's still a guy who can sling the ball, and he can extend plays with his feet. But you got to get this guy some help. I think the change in play calling was almost necessitated by his physical limitations, but it might have worked out because I think you see in the couple of games that the Cowboys won, although I don't want to give too much credit for the Rams game, they shouldn't have fallen that far behind, but nonetheless, smarter play calling, you know, and higher percentage play calling, and it worked out. I would like to see what the Saints pass rush can do. I think the Dallas Cowboys offensive line is average at best. I think DeMarco Murray is going to challenge those linebackers, and I think Romo, with his volume passing, is going to make the Saints secondary stand on its heels. Obviously, you got to account for Des Bryant, but Romo can get into a pattern where he throws the ball so much, especially if the team is behind, that even the best secondary is going to be challenged over and over and over and over again. So I think this is going to be a real litmus test for the Saints. So we can go ahead and I guess let's try to get our...
well, let's say this. Who do you got, and what is your score for the game? We can get past all the other stuff, and, you know, we're going to see who you picking.
Yeah, well, I'm taking the Saints in this game. I think they've really had the better of the Cowboys, and I think the Saints, it's going to be an arms race, but I think the Saints have more weapons, and I think the Saints defense should be able to contain Dallas enough to let Drew Brees take a lead. I also think that Dallas's defense is so bad that they're not going to be able to stop Drew Brees. Remember, this is the same Drew Brees that enabled the Saints to pick up, same Dallas Cowboys team for that matter, that picked up 40 first downs, an NFL record 40 first downs last year on Sunday Night Football. So I'm taking the Saints, and I'm actually taking the Saints to cover in this one.
Oh, good. What about you, Professor? Who are you looking at?
Well,
who you
man,
like?
I mean, I'm going to go with the Saints. I'm going to go with regional loyalties, and I'm going to go with the Saints. It's going to be a mediocre game. As Eric said, it's going to be a scoring shootout. I think it is going to far supersede the over. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict Saints 34, Dallas 21.
Good. And I'm also taking the Saints. I'm taking the Saints in a nail biter. I think it's going to go down to it. I think I'm going to step out on the limb. And actually, I was thinking I was going to go over, but I think I'm going to go under now. I think I'm going to go 24-20 Saints.
Wow.
That's we'll see how that pans out. You know, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be on Sunday Night Football, so whatever the Saints do or don't have will be showcased before the eyes of the nation. Some other significant NFL matchups. The NFL's oldest rivalry, the Green Bay Packers, will travel to Soldier Field to play the Bears. You know, the Bears looked pretty impressive on Monday Night Football when you consider that they were on the road against a Rex Ryan defense. I thought Jay Cutler moved the ball. He didn't have his way with the Jets, but I thought he got what he needed when he needed them. Green Bay, on the other hand, they are 2-1, but they look like a very tentative 2-1. You know, Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to have that S on his chest like he's had. And of course, Green Bay's gotten off to some slow starts the last couple of years, but still, yeah, I think in Soldier Field, I like the Bears in this game. It's going to be a real showcase of what the NFC North has to offer this year.
Well, this game is picked up. Vegas has this game rated Green Bay +1, so that's virtually a toss-up. But I'm being biased. I'm a Green Bay fan. Eric knows this. We are getting off to a slow start. Aaron doesn't have the protection that he normally has. I like Lacey's role. Lacey's been playing a real positive role in our offense. But I'm just going to stick with emotional ties, and I'm going to go with Green Bay, even though this game is in Soldier Field. And you're right, Cutler did look very strong last week. And
I slipped up a minute ago. I think I said Green Bay was off to a 2-1 start. That's wrong. They're 1-2. The Bears are 2-1. My fault, folks. Piper, I don't know if you have anything on Green Bay at Chicago. We were just talking about the NFC North.
NFC North is, I think it's a nail biter. Chicago is actually kind of surprising me this year. I think they're leading the division this year. And Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers is kind of a head-scratcher to me. I thought Aaron Rodgers would probably come back this year, you know, playing a little bit better. And I thought I think they was picked to win the division by most people and everything, but they kind of seem to be faltering a little bit. I don't know if it's you know, it's hard for me to put my finger on it. He doesn't look as dominant as he used to in past years.
Okay, well, now, well, just hold on. Keep scratching your head. Keep scratching your head because we're going to turn this thing around. Aaron does have the S on his chest. He's still just being Clark Kent at that time. He hasn't gone into the phone booth and donned his S, his G as of yet, but we're coming. Bear witness.
Okay, well, I'll give you that. I want to give him a chance. He's a Super Bowl winning MVP, so I have to take my hats off to him. But I don't know if he's injured. But to me, just from the eye test, he doesn't really look as dominant as he used to. To me.
Yeah, in Green Bay, as I mentioned a moment ago, they got off to a slow start last year, wound up winning the division, making the playoffs. But last year when they got off to that 1-2 start, it looked like a hard luck 1-2 start. All right, kind of like the Saints had the hard luck 0-2 start. They lost on 2 walk-off field goals on the road.
Right.
It was a tough break, but it wasn't like they got smattered all over the field. Something just looks disconnected, and is disconnected with the offense. We know their defense can, particularly the secondary, can give it up sometimes, but you expect Aaron Rodgers to really have to be at the controls of that aircraft, so to speak, and we'll find out, but something just looks a little off. Another big matchup, speaking of the NFC North, the Detroit, I almost said the Detroit Tigers. See where my mind is right now. The Detroit Lions off to a 2-1 start, looking very sharp, but they have to go to MetLife Stadium and play the Jets. The Jets are 1-2, but Geno Smith is a guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a all-pro quarterback. Would you grab that, please? Was that? I'm sorry. Never mind. I apologize. I thought that was the phone. But he's never been. I don't think he's going to be an all-pro quarterback, but he's shown he's capable of managing and running that offense. Looked really good, even though in defeat against a tough Bears defense. And they have the Lions. The Lions have a chance to really get themselves back to where they were in 2011, in which they won the division. Stafford looks sharp. Megatron looks bulletproof. And the Detroit defense is playing some tight defense. Of course, when you go to New York, you got to deal with Rex Ryan's defense, which is always tough. I don't care who you are. I actually like, what's the line on that one? I'm going to guess Detroit's a slight favorite on the road at New York. As the professor checks that one out. But without looking at the line score, I'm going to actually take the Jets. I expect the Jets to hang on and get this win at home, although I expect a very competitive game. I do. I think their defense, because their offense has been so punchless the last few years, it tends to get overlooked. But I think their defense is tough, and I think they can take advantage of some weaknesses with Detroit. Detroit does not have a power running game, and that feeds right into the strengths of the Jets' front seven. So I'm going to go and say I expect the Jets to win this game, although I expect it to be quite close.
The line is they're playing in New York. The Jets are +2. The over and under is 45, so it's -2 Detroit. So a field goal will win it.
Yeah,
Right.
I like the Jets and the points.
Right, and I think Detroit is another team that 1 week they show you like they can really, break out and become one of the elite teams, and then the next week they'll show you that they're not. I've never kind of understood Detroit. They got one of the best defensive line players. 2 of them,
Dominican Sue and Nick Fairley. Of course, Fairley needs to back away from the table a little bit.
Right. Matt Stafford is due for 5,000 yards. You got Megatron, the best receiver in the game. You got, Reggie Bush, a good utility player. You have, and now you have a new coach in. They're looking pretty good, so we're going to see what this game is all about. Rex Ryan, he's happy that he's back because of his, they gave him that contract extension and gave him another chance to be able to. Man, he's always had defense. The Jets have always had defense, but we're going to see what the quarterback is going to do. I think everything falls upon that offense. Defense, I think, is going to be fine. This is another game that kind of is going to reveal to everybody what these teams are made about and what direction that they're going in, I think.
It is a litmus test game, Piper. I totally agree. And I think probably the biggest game on the lineup of the day, I would think, it's another one where we talk about scratching heads and inexplicable starts. You have the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to travel out to the West Coast to play the 1-2 San Francisco 49ers. Wow. And, if there is a panic button in San Francisco, Jim Harbaugh had better press it now. Now, I think this is another one where I'm kind of going to go against the trend because Chip Kelly has had the Eagles playing outstanding football. He has them, in the second half, it's like the Eagles are a machine.
Right.
Right. And they're one of only 3 undefeated teams left in the NFL at 3-0. But they're going out to San Francisco. They're playing on the West Coast. They have to travel. That's always going to impact even the best conditioned teams. And we all know Chip Kelly's about conditioning. I don't think San Francisco forgot how to play defense overnight. I don't think Frank Gore forgot how to run the football overnight. And I don't think Colin Kaepernick forgot how to work in that offense overnight. I think it's going to be a very tough battle. I think it'll be close, but I do think San Francisco gets back on the horse this week and hands Philadelphia its first loss, but expect Philadelphia to keep them on that treadmill. Expect Philadelphia to keep them running the whole time. I expect to be decided late in the game.
So you're picking the 49ers?
I'm picking the 49ers to win. I don't know what the spread is.
Who you picking, Professor? Because I look at it now, the way that the Philadelphia is rolling and the way that San Francisco is kind of on the ropes. San Francisco needed more because in this division with Seattle, they can't afford to lose too many games.
And Arizona.
Exactly. So, and the 49ers have had a lot of little turmoil going on. Chip Kelly's coming back to the West Coast and everything. I think he knows. He's familiar with that time zone. He's familiar with the way that they kind of play out there and everything. And, man, that offense that he got is like they look bad in maybe 1 or 2 quarters, and then all of a sudden he just changes it up. So, and I see that the 49ers are kind of going away from, they're starting to run Colin Kaepernick a lot more this year. And it looks like when they gave him all this money, so now it's time to step up to the plate. You got your contract, so what you going to do now?
Okay, the spread is 6 points, Eric, is the 49ers -6, and the over and under is 52. I'm inclined to lean towards the under.
Me too.
I mean, the over, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm inclined to lean toward the over. I think that typically the way the stats play out when a game is targeted at being over 50, normally Vegas kind of has a little insight to what's going on, and typically those higher overs usually pan out. Normally the standard over and under pick will be over and under 42, 44. So when an over is 50-something, that gives a flag to me, a signal to me to kind of lean toward that over.
I'm going to make it interesting. I don't want to say prediction because I don't have a Swami hat, but I'm going to take the under, and I expect the 49ers to win. I didn't realize there were 6-point favorites. That's hefty considering how hot Philadelphia's been. But if the 49, if that tally is the over, I think Philadelphia wins. If it's the under, which I think it will be the under, I expect the 49ers to win that game. Piper, you had mentioned something about Colin Kaepernick. You're right. They seem to be asking him to run more, and that's not really you know what? Notice normally with athletic quarterbacks, that's throughout history. Randall Cunningham, Steve Young, all the way to Aaron Rodgers to Cam Newton, Russell Wilson. You notice when they're younger, the coaches will encourage them to take off because they don't have the experience to find those throws, and they can make the plays with their feet. And as they get older, they tend to pull them back and have them run less and throw more. Kaepernick is a guy, he is a fantastic runner out of the pocket, but his strength is extending plays with his feet more so than taking off and running, and they have him taking off and running more. I don't know what's going on downfield, and I have not watched a full 49ers game, but I can only say that unless he just doesn't have men open down the field, I don't think it's a strategy to win. I think you've got to get Kaepernick throwing the football. His best way to hurt people is to surprise them with his feet and take off and run when they're not expecting it. If he's running the ball 10, 12 times a game, they're going to be lying in wait for him.
And to me, it shows panic. And to me, it shows like their game plan is going away. It's sort of like when they played Seattle last year. He tried to stay in the pocket, and Seattle dominated them. But the second time, when they started to make their comeback, that's when he started moving out the pocket. He changed the game plan up. But this year, by him getting that contract, and he has receivers to throw to. He has Vernon Davis, one of the fastest tight ends. He has these guys to throw to.
Crabtree?
Yeah, he has Crabtree, and he has the old veteran back there.
Anquan Bolden.
Anquan Bolden, a good possession receiver. So I don't know. It's just kind of with them. I understand they have a few injuries on their line and everything, and look like they're not running the ball as well this year. But like you said, hey, this is panic time for them because of the division they're in.
You got that absolute. Oh, I'm sorry, Professor.
Well, I think that Kaepernick is encountering a lot of zone defense. They're kind of sitting back, so they're flooding the zone. Crabtree, he's not getting a good look at Crabtree, Vernon Davis. So he's being left with the option to run or take off. And the running game does show glimpses of excellence, but he's encountering a lot of zones, so that's why he's taking off with his feet, Piper.
Good point, Professor.
That's the late game on Fox tomorrow. I think that is going to be a really fun game to watch. Kerry Williams earlier this week I don't have the exact quote, but basically he was saying that Chip Kelly was a drill sergeant making him run on Saturdays. Usually Saturdays just a walkthrough, review the game plan, and go on. He's like, this guy makes us practice. This guy makes us run. But if you notice, in all 3 games, Philadelphia was kind of trading blows, maybe even falling behind early, and in the second half really overpowered their opponents. That comes from conditioning, in my opinion.
Exactly.
And so I know, look, Kerry Williams, I know you might not like it, but it feels a lot better when you win than when you lose in the NFL. I know that much. So we're going to see how that works out. And going to the West Coast, they're going to need that conditioning. So we're going to take a brief intermission here, just kind of regroup a little bit. When we come back on the other side of things, we're going to still have a lot of sports for you. We're going to talk about our guys here in town, our favorite Cats, depending on which side of town you're on. If you're on the Bluff, we're talking about those Southern Jaguars as they have to go on down to Mississippi and face Alcorn. That's going to be a huge SWAC contest. And on the other side of town, the LSU Tigers have invited a tackling dummy in from the Southwest in New Mexico State. And I think after the embarrassment they suffered last week at the hands of their SEC rival Mississippi State Bulldogs in Tiger Stadium, I feel very sorry for any of the New Mexico State Aztecs. I think it's going to be or is it the Aztecs or who cares? They're going to beat the crap out of New Mexico State. So we will be back in about 90 seconds. You are listening to Louisiana All-American Sports on 96.9 FM, WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio.
I know myself that we can live much better than this. Nothing's changed, just another sequel. The devil still causing trouble.
My life in the sunshine. Grand Poobah, baby. Brand Nubian. Yes, indeed.
But Perry said he's going to concert tonight.
Yeah, how about right? Yeah.
Wow.
Now we know.
Oh, man. P-Dog, you going to check out infinitely wise Grand Poobah.
Well, that's why we know. That's why.
Lord Jamar.
Up in D.C., you're gonna get those good acts. That's why Coach in on the show. He's getting warmed up for the night.
Yes.
I don't blame him. That's gonna be.
That's why he couldn't listen to it. He said he went and seen Dick Gregory last night.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
His wife and his daughter. He said that's why I couldn't listen in because I was listening to him.
That is
he said Dick Gregory said, yeah, man, the NFL is a lot of concussions. I mean, it's a violent game. There's a lot of broke jaws and everything. And that's just the wives,
That man's a national treasure. I'm glad he got. If you get a chance to see him, check him out while he's still here.
Yeah.
Okay, let me briefly mention, I'm sorry for the local citizens of Baton Rouge that are our Catholic High fans, but I was remiss in not mentioning one of the local talents, most dominant teams over the past decade in the Baton Rouge area. Catholic High took a loss to Rummels. Everyone knows about Geis, the highly touted recruit from Catholic High. I think he may be the leading running back in the state, but Catholic High took a bruiser last night, 17-14 to Rummels.
Rummel handing out beatdowns. Yeah, the Rummels. Look, that's slobber knocking football. Was that played here or in Metairie?
Slobber, I think they were in Metairie.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. That's if you're in the area. When you see Rummel against a team like Catholic or any Jesuit Brother Martin big school, right. that atmosphere is almost like a microcosm of a big college game.
Right.
Those folks don't play. They come there to see their teams win.
Indeed.
So congratulations to the Rummel Raiders. Tough break for the Catholic High Bears, but I'm pretty confident they'll bounce back, and I'm pretty sure Geis will be up and running next week.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now speaking, we talked a little high school, we talked a little pros. Let's talk about our boys here in town.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Southern University Jaguars. They pulled one out, by a nice solid margin last week at Prairie View. This week, they hosted Prairie View last week, right? They came
right.
Anyway, I'm all over the place. I apologize. Anyway, they beat Prairie View last week. They have Alcorn State. This week they have to go down to Mississippi to play them. Southern, their defense looks improved over last year. They look like they have the ability to contain. That ability had better come out today because Alcorn State can move the football, and I don't just mean SWAC. They played Southern Miss. A lot of mid-major schools, a lot of FCS schools will always get that. First of all, they get some funding for their academic program, and they'll play up and travel to play the FBS teams. They gave Southern Miss a run for their money, very close to pulling off a stunning upset. They've absolutely obliterated their mid-major counterparts. Alcorn State can put the ball in the air. They can score points in bunches. They scored over 50, I believe, at least 2 times this season.
Right.
I'm going to let you guys do a lot of the talking on Southern and the SWAC and this potential SWAC championship preview. We could be seeing these guys in Houston in December, but I'll just tell you, don't tar and feather me, Jaguar Nation, but I think the Braves are going to scalp the Jags this week.
Oh, boo.
Well, let me give you a brief overview of what's transpiring here with Southern University. Southern has been one of the most disciplined teams in the SWAC this season. It is tied with Jackson State for the fewest penalties per yard per game at 50.2, and is the second. I'm sorry, they're for the fewest penalty yards per game and the fewest penalties per game, 27. The Jaguars have been penalized 7 times in each of the past 2 games after being penalized a season-high 8 times against Central Methodist and a season-low against USL. Also, Alcorn's quarterback, hey, I mean, he's a talent. He's a great gift. We're going to see how that's going to play out. Can Southern curtail and stop the offense? This guy has vision, an excellent arm, and he can hurt you with his feet.
Yeah, I think so. And this is a very, very big game. This is pretty much the SWAC title preview. And I think Alcorn, like you said, Eric, they can really move the ball. You know, they're a very good offensive team. This game is going to be at 4 o'clock today.
It's on ESPN 3.
Yes,
on ESPN 3.
Yeah, that's right. And this is going to be another litmus game to tell us where these two teams are at. But I think that I'm kind of in the air about this one, but my heart's telling me Southern, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with Southern. I think that Willie Quinn, the playmaker that Southern has, is going to be a big part of this game. And that's why I think that, you know, and of course the turnovers. If they can keep the turnovers down. We talked about this before, how turnovers and penalties can actually cost you the game. But I think these two teams are the creme de la creme of the SWAC division, and we're going to find out tonight at 4 o'clock, not tonight, at 4 o'clock, you know, not in a few more hours, you know, where these guys are.
Okay, now let me play devil's advocate as well, because we know that Grambling State University also defeated Jackson State last week, and Grambling has Prairie View. So now this is going to be a major mix of it's going to be a major mix. They're going to be facing a conundrum in the athletic world, because if Grambling upsets Prairie View, right, oh my God, it's going to be a virtual gumbo. I can't wait.
Right. And that, go ahead, Eric.
I think the spirit of Steve McNair might be the late Steve McNair might be hovering over Alcorn State, because that young man. I wish I could spit out his name, but I've watched him throw some bombs before. It's gonna be.
He does, man.
It's gonna be a fun game to watch.
It is.
You know,
it is. He has a rocket arm.
So if you appreciate high scoring and mid-major football, I think this is a big one. This is important for both teams, because the team that wins this game today is, at least for right now, in September. You know, on September the 27th, is going to be in the driver's seat in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Yeah, they're going to be in the driver's seat. Right now, Texas Southern is 2-0 in the conference, and Grambling is 1-0 in the conference. So
I can't believe that.
Right, ain't that something?
Yeah.
And on the east side, Alabama State is leading, and Alcorn is 1-0, and Alabama State is 2-0 on the east, on the SWAC East. So this game is going to be it's going to be a barn burner. And
Alcorn needs it too. They got to keep up with ASU, because ASU is, I mean, every year they're kind of the team, the steady Eddie in the SWAC East.
Right,
so
right.
We're going to see
on the road too.
Yeah,
this is a big test for Southern.
Very tough.
Go Jags.
All right, so just going around the horn, you have the Jaguars, Piper?
I have Jaguars.
Professor?
Man, it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to have to take Prairie View, man.
Oh,
and I'm taking the Braves also. So one of us will be right and one of us will be wrong. Remind you guys that in about 18 minutes we have coming up on WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio, Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction, coming up on 96.9 FM very shortly.
Yeah,
so
boy.
Moving to the south side of town, last week we were discussing the LSU-Mississippi State game. It was the LSU Southeastern Conference home opener. I mentioned the history of that series, that LSU had really owned Mississippi State, that Mississippi State had not beaten LSU in Tiger Stadium since 1991. They had not beaten LSU at all since 1999. LSU was a 10-point favorite. So, of course, LSU's got to win this going away. Am I right? Am I right? Well, some folks had speculated, some regional radio hosts had speculated that this was Mississippi State's best chance to sneak one in on LSU, and they were absolutely right. Dak Prescott, the sophomore quarterback for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, looked absolutely brilliant. He played the game of his young college career.
Yes, he did.
LSU defense looked like they were ill-prepared for him, like they did not have an answer for him when he made plays with his feet, and they tried to bottle that up. He put it in the air, finding open receivers. Then when they tried to double up in the air, he took off and ran, and then LSU had trouble making tackles in the open field. It was a really uninspired performance. The Mississippi State Bulldogs defense, I mentioned last week that their front seven was vaunted. Some considered them the best in the SEC.
Yes.
And so what does LSU, but their secondary was a weak spot. So what does LSU try to do for three quarters? They try to pound the ball up the middle, and it wasn't working. Right. So when that didn't work, what did they do? They ran the ball some more. I thought the goal line stand by MSU, when they stopped Anthony Jennings on fourth down, might have been a clue to Cam Cameron and Les Miles that they might want to change up their strategy, but they just kind of stayed the course and wound up in a huge hole. They were down 24 points in the fourth quarter. They made an interesting comeback, and the silver lining in that dark cloud was Brandon Harris came in and led them very quickly to 2 quick touchdowns. And despite the butt kicking that LSU took for most of that game, the bottom line was on the final play of the game, they had the ball in Mississippi State territory with a chance to throw the ball in the air and hope for a touchdown. That didn't happen. They lost 34-29. But there's still some troubles. There's some troubles in paradise in Tigerland.
There's some trouble in paradise, but I think one thing you mentioned that at the end of the game by Brandon Harris coming in, and you saw the arm strength that he had, and he was very accurate on the run, which was very impressive to me. But it was a very uninspiring. I thought that they would be more motivated for that win. They knew that these guys coming in and Dak Prescott coming in. He was recruited by LSU. He chose to go to Mississippi State, and it was kind of a revenge game to him. And he played the game of his life, and it was a sloppy game, bad tackling, no discipline, and that goes directly to the coaching staff to me. It goes directly to Les Miles. They were unprepared. I'm just going to call it like I see it. LSU came in, and I don't know if they overlooked that game or whatever they did, but those guys were like, it was almost like LSU was playing on the road. It was like Mississippi State had the momentum and had more the motivation than LSU. And I was very disappointed by that game. I really was. And at the end, they tried to change up their strategy a little bit when they brought in Harris and everything, and it worked a little bit, but it was too late.
They laid the dollar short.
Right, exactly.
And you hit the nail on the head, Piper. It goes to coaching and preparation, and Dan Mullen schemed and game planned to a T. Mississippi State came in like that was their essence. This is the first time in a while Mississippi State's even had the talent to compete with LSU.
Right,
and they knew it, and this was their chance, and they came and they took advantage of their opportunities. And the game plan from Coach Cameron and Coach Miles just, again, Mississippi State, you can see the front seven is mighty. All these talking heads on the radio and experts have talked about how great they are, how they could be the best in the league. So if they know that, I know Coach Miles knows that.
Right.
And yet he insisted on running the football
up the middle.
And when it wasn't working, he never changed his game plan until it was at the very end. So I thought, ultimately, while the players make plays and the tackling needed a lot of work, I thought it came down to coaching. And I'm a big fan of Les Miles. Anyone who's listened to this show knows that. But Dan Mullen came through and went Apollo Creed, or I guess Rocky Balboa, to Les Miles Apollo Creed. And this one, it hit him right in the jaw.
Yeah.
Professor, you got it? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So LSU, they have New Mexico State today. New Mexico State is, even by mid-major standards, a very bad football program. Their defense is made of Swiss cheese. Their secondary, I think I might be able to start in their secondary even at age 39. I expect LSU is going to have a lot of frustration to take out. You have a lot of players who are going to want to prove their mettle to their coaches and make up for the manhood that got tested last week. I feel very badly for this New Mexico State team coming in to Tiger Stadium. I don't know the line, but I'm taking LSU. I don't know the over/under, but I'm taking the over. I think they're going to mop New Mexico State all over the field, and the $500,000 or $750,000, whatever they paid these guys to come out here, it'll be well worth it because they're going to be cruising for a bruising this afternoon.
I think so too, and I totally agree with it. But this is the question I want to ask you, Eric: is it a quarterback controversy right now? Because from what I've seen, I think that they should be going forward. This freshman is ready to me. That's just from the eye test. That's from what I see.
I'll tell you what, the talking point has always been that Anthony Jennings has been a guy. Look, we can see that he can't throw as well as Harris, but the talking point is he is a sophomore. He knows the offense well. He can run the offense, manage the game. We did see Brandon Harris look a little tentative a few times when he got some action, but. Yes. Man, I mean, you look at the rifle for an arm that kid has, and you look at how LSU needs some infusion of passing as they come up with this SEC schedule. I think you're going to see Brandon Harris get a lot of playing time tonight in a game in which there's nothing to lose.
Exactly.
And if he continues to look sharp, it could be a matter of time before Les Miles pulls that hook out, because they cannot find themselves flat-footed when they need a lot of offense as they did on Saturday night. So we're going to see who's right and who's wrong, and who will get to say I told you so. And so with that, we're going to pull up to our usual segment, I Told You So, and on the back end, we're going to have Professor Johnson's history class in session. But right now, let's hear I Told You So.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
Defense has got to get it together. The crowd in the Superdome, Perry, and you touched on that, the Saints Nation, the Who Dat Nation, is going to give that defense a lift. It's just, any quarterback will tell you, it's an imposing and daunting 12th man. As good as Seattle's is, we have a pretty tough 12th man down in New Orleans, and I think it's going to help them a little bit. The Vikings, you know, with Matt Castle at quarterback, he just looks like a fill-in until Teddy Bridgewater's ready. Now they don't have bullets in the gun with the running game. Defense is okay, but I don't think it'll be enough to shut down Drew Brees. So I've said this 3 weeks in a row, but I have optimism. I'm right this time. I think the Saints are going to win this game. I think they'll cover the spread. I think it's going to be, I expect it to be kind of one-sided, honestly.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're all on record as having the Saints with a victory this weekend.
Yes, sir. I have the Saints, and I have them to cover. Professor has the Saints, and you have the Saints too, I assume, Perry?
I have the Saints as well.
All right, let's hope we're right. Let's hope we're all in that boat together. We're going to sink or swim on this one. Have the Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks. Perry, I cannot remember who the home team is. Is that game being played at the 12th man?
I don't know what we do now, Eric. Wherever it is, oh my goodness.
It's going to be a party. It's in Seattle. I think the Seahawks hold on for dear life.
It is in Seattle.
It is in Seattle. I think the Seahawks hold on for dear life.
Well, yeah, man, it's just hard to imagine that the Seahawks will lose 2 in a row.
Right.
So, I'm going to have to go with Seattle on this one.
I'm going to pick the Panthers. They look good. Cam Newton looks good. The Steelers offensively, I'm sorry, strike that, defensively, just look a little lost. I'm going to go with the hot hand right now.
And I'm going to go with Carolina too, man.
I'm going to go with them to upset the Seahawks. Upset the Panthers, though. Yes, I am.
Really, Coach?
I hope you're right.
Yeah. I expect a big game from former McKinley High player and McKinley High graduate Leonard Tillery today, who's been inserted back into the lineup at the running back position. For some reason, he has fallen far on the depth chart, and now he seems to be out of Coach Odom's doghouse, and I expect a big game out of him this afternoon.
Dawson Odoms has made a lot of adjustments, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. At least last year, that's what we saw. So I like the Jags in this game.
Hey, Eric, I'm going to go with Southern as well.
I think that we all can agree with the Saints on this game. We should win. I think that we should win, but I don't want to stick my neck out there too much. Of course, I'm riding with the Jaguars.
A lot of folks are saying Mississippi State can win this game. I don't believe that in my gut. Of course, I could be looking at it through purple and gold shades, but I think LSU's defense, if they continue to play as well as they've played and execute the way they've executed, I think Mississippi State's going to have a tough time. And I think Traven Durrell and Anthony Jennings have a good chemistry going when LSU does put the ball in the air, and I think they can take advantage of that Mississippi State secondary.
I think that LSU will again get a win against Mississippi State.
All right. That's something.
I agree. LSU will win that game.
Well, we got a lot of them right last week, but let's hope for our home guys, and let's hope we get a few more right this week and don't have to hear a lot of buzzers. So without further ado, we're going to class is in session as we're getting ready to roll into Professor Johnson's history class. Class is in session.
Peace and blessings to my universal family, and today I have been typically going with a Eurocentric type Eastern world thought, but we're going to come back to Westernized thought today, and I want to share with you some terms and a little information about America that perhaps you may have not been knowledgeable of. But we all are familiar with the term capitalism and the ideology or the economic system that runs America. However, I want to explain to you today that this model comes from a European model that developed from a 16th to 18th century ideology from the writings of John Locke and Adam Smith. Adam Smith is the author of a book called The Wealth of Nations, and Adam Smith is a major economist, and during this time frame, Europe coming from the system of feudalism and serfdom, where individuals lived on a manor and they were under a baron or a lord, there was no individualism. So John Locke proposed and introduced individualism in a Eurocentric society, where he said that happiness was contingent upon life, liberty, and the ownership of property. Now, in the Madisonian model in America, they adopted this formula, and Thomas Jefferson and Madison implemented life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, equating happiness with the ownership of property, thereby creating individualism and the concept of laissez-faire. Now, briefly, laissez-faire is a theoretical perspective that comes from France. Laissez-faire, laissez-passer, which means hands off, to leave alone from government intervention in a free market, free enterprise system. Now, when they were saying hands off, they didn't actually mean government regulation, but you need to understand the mindset. And in closing, the mindset was you coming from a system of mercantilism, which was high tariffs, high absolutism, and monarchs, and your swelling the coffers of the monarch. Instead, the wealth of the nation was contingent upon what the private citizenry owned and what they had. So Adam Smith was very innovative in bringing that into place, and this is where America gets this capitalistic gain, free market system, and laissez-faire as the Republican is the Republican's catchword, which means to leave alone. And Adam Smith proposed that if the free market was left alone by the invisible hand, that it would naturally correct itself. So in closing, always investigate the information that you receive. If it is indeed the truth, verily it shall stand the test of investigation.
And look, that ultimately ties back to sports. Look at free agency, salary caps, the National Football League. Adam Smith's principles very much in effect today. Class dismissed. All right, so we have a little bit of a hiccup. There we go. Real quick, before we leave out today, we have to mention our boys of summer that are heading into the fall. The Major League Baseball playoff picture looks pretty clear at this point. In the American League, 4 of the 5 playoff spots have been clinched, and the Seattle Mariners are on life support, barring an absolute miracle. They should be out. In the American League, the Baltimore Orioles have long since clinched the American League East. Detroit is 1 game up ahead of Kansas City in the AL Central. Their magic number is down to 2, but congratulations to the Kansas City Royals back in the playoffs for the first time since their World Series winning year of 1985 when they beat
George Brett.
Yep, when they beat Perry's St. Louis Cardinals in 7 games. I'm sure Perry's. Yep, the quiz, baby. Those guys, that was boy, oh boy. So they're back in. It's good to see the Royals back in postseason. The Los Angeles Angels have been sitting on their tuffets for quite some time. They have home field advantage all but locked up unless they lose their last 3 and the Orioles win their last 3. The Angels have the best record in the American League. The Oakland Athletics with 1 win will be in the wild card. In the National League, the Washington Nationals have completely run away, 17 games ahead of the field in the National League East. They also, at the moment, have the best record in the National League. Probably will have that top seed. The NL West was clinched by the Dodgers, but the San Francisco Giants have clinched wild card berth. They will most likely be the second wild card. They'll have to go on the road and play the loser of the Central Division race, or the second place team in the Central Division, between Perry's St. Louis Cardinals, who are really in the driver's seat. They are game up on the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Cardinals have a series against the worst team in the National League, the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Pittsburgh Pirates have to face the Cincinnati Reds. That is not going to be quite as easy a task, and the Reds probably have an axe to grind. They had some opportunities and let them slip this year. Finally, so we're looking forward to that October chase. And finally, we got to talk about the captain, Derek Jeter, played his last home game on Thursday night. And I'll tell you, the Yankees are going to Boston for a series that has absolutely no meaning whatsoever as far as the playoff implications. But Jeter said he didn't play last night. He expects to at least take a couple of at-bats just to respect the rivalry between themselves and the Red Sox. But I'll tell you, that home finale, that was a storybook ending, as he had a walk-off single in the bottom of the ninth.
Wow.
And it looked like the Yankees were up 3 runs in the ninth. All of a sudden, David Robertson comes out, gives up the booty, and gives Jeter another chance to drive in a winning run. It was really, you couldn't have written a script for Hollywood any better than that.
Right, and I mean, it was almost like a whole 360, because that's the way Jeter's career has been. And he had significant moments. It was just like a Jeter moment. It's like you knew something like that was going to happen, and that was just the right timing for the end of his career. Here's a man that modeled himself. He was Mr. Yankee himself. He never got into no type of controversy.
Class act
all the way, and I really respect him for that. Not being not the #1 Yankee fan, but I'm a Jeter fan.
Me too.
I'm a Jeter fan.
I think Jeter has been a consummate professional. I think he's been the epitome of a Yankee. I think that Steinbrenner would be very proud of him.
Oh, yeah. And one other kudos to him, he's also a ladies' man.
I was just about to say that. I was like, I'm telling you, we can all look up to him in that way. Yes, indeed. Player for real.
Yeah.
Mr. November, the captain, best wishes. In my opinion, the most significant. I'm not a Yankees fan either. I'm a known Yankees hater. But I think he's been the most significant single baseball player of the last 20 years when you look at the totality of his career and everything surrounding it. So that will bring us to the end of another edition of Louisiana All-American Sports. Guys, 15 seconds. Any parting shots? Parting shots
are always to you guys, to the guys in my studio. Also, want to give a shout out to Perry Daniels out there, man. You keep pushing, man, and I appreciate you. Give shouts out to my daughter. Her name is Kay Shire Benton. She's expecting a baby in the next couple of weeks.
Piper is brimming. He's practically blushing.
That's about it.
Well, as always, shout out to the McKinley Senior High School family. I want to acknowledge the whole SWAC, the whole SEC, the South Baton Rouge community, and a special shout out to the Christopher McCullough Superintendent's Academy, who is under the leadership of Principal Averill Sanders, doing a great job there. Keep up the good work.
Have a good afternoon.
Peace.
Yeah.
Adam Smith, man.
Hail to the king and lots of love. May he protect us from the evil. Hail to the king, lots of love.